Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Bethany, and today's recipe, I'm gonna show you how to make my rosemary garlic bread. This bread is so easy. We're gonna use a Dutch oven to create the perfect crust inside of the oven, and then the inside of the bread is perfectly soft with that beautiful aromatic flavor of rosemary and garlic. It is so good, and just the perfect, easy bread recipe, no technical skills needed. That's why I love it. So let's get right into it. All right, so I'm prepping my rosemary and garlic first. So I want 2 heaping tablespoons of fresh chopped rosemary and about 1 heaping tablespoon of garlic. I'm using some nice fresh rosemary from the garden. We're gonna chop this really small. We want the rosemary to be evenly dispersed throughout the whole loaf, so we want it nicely minced. So the garlic cloves, it's just gonna depend on the size of the garlic cloves. I have about 5 here that I'm gonna mince up. Hopefully that's around 1 tablespoon. And the reason that we're using fresh rosemary and raw garlic is because in a bread, you really want those flavors to punch you in the face and be really nice and pungent. And when you use like a garlic powder or a dried rosemary, the flavors are just gonna be more subtle. So I do recommend using fresh garlic cloves and fresh rosemary. The flavor is just gonna be so much better that way. I have a bowl here that we're gonna mix all our bread ingredients in, and I'm using a scale to measure my ingredients, but I will give you the cups if you don't have a scale to measure grams and all of that. All right, so first we're gonna be using 430 grams of bread flour, or 3 1/4 cups. And I like to use bread flour in a bread recipe just because it has a higher protein in it, which creates a really nice chewy texture in the bread and a nice crust. But you can also just swap this for all purpose. It's totally fine if you don't have bread flour. And I just wanna do some of the dry ingredients first so we can mix all that together before I put the water in. Then we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. And I'm using instant yeast because we don't need to activate it. Active yeast, you would just need to activate it with warm water to get the yeast activated. Then I'm gonna add my fresh rosemary that I chopped up, 2 tablespoons of that. Then our garlic. Then we're gonna do 1 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Then I'm gonna just mix those dry ingredients together. Not that the garlic is dry, but we still wanna get that incorporated before we add the water. I've made this bread many times, and if you add the water before kind of mixing everything, it just is a little bit harder to get the rosemary and the garlic evenly distributed throughout the whole loaf. Then we're gonna add a little bit of honey because the yeast actually feeds on sugar. Since we're not kneading this, it really helps with the building of the structure of the loaf. Then we have 1 1/2 cups of room temperature water, or it's about 355 milliliters. We're gonna add that to the ingredients. And then we're gonna just mix this all together. And I do not have a KitchenAid mixer or anything like that. We just make bread the old-fashioned way with just a spoon or wooden spatula and our hands. I actually broke our first one because I used it too hard, so. I think we owned it for like a year and I broke it, so. Whoops. If you have a KitchenAid mixer, you can just use your bread hook and use that to mix this together. And there's no kneading in this recipe. So now we're just gonna cover it, let it do its thing. So I have some plastic wrap and just gonna cover the bowl tightly. Now we're gonna let this sit to rise for 3 hours. So a typical proving oven temperature is between 75 to 80 degrees. So anything in that temperature range would be great for this to sit in that area, but don't let it sit directly in sunlight. We don't want that. But yep, it's gonna double in size and then we'll bake it in the oven. All right, so when this is doubled in size, what we're first gonna do is get our hands floured as well as sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter. And we have our parchment paper ready to go for when we're gonna use that. We're gonna transfer the dough onto that and then into the pot. So now we're gonna just pour this with floured hands onto the countertop. We wanna make sure everything is floured because this can be sticky and we wanna prevent things from sticking, so make sure everything is well floured. This bread smells amazing already and it's not even baked. So we're just gonna tuck the dough underneath, and we don't wanna touch it too much or handle it too much because then we're gonna knock the air out of it, and we don't wanna do that. Give a nice loaf shape when we're baking this in the oven. But again, everything is floured to prevent this from becoming a sticky mess. All right, now we're gonna carefully transfer this onto our parchment paper. We'll just gently shape our little bread baby again. So we have our Dutch oven pot ready, and this is essential for this recipe because what it's gonna do is it radiates a ton of heat, but it also steams the bread, and the steam actually helps get a really nice crust on the bread. So this is perfect for bread making. And now we're gonna lift both sides of the parchment paper and carefully transfer it into our Dutch oven. And you can just kind of tuck those little sides of the parchment paper away from the loaf. Now we're gonna cover this and bake it at 450 degrees for 30 minutes covered, then 10 minutes uncovered, just so that we get a nice browned crust. All right, so we just took this out of the oven. It smells so good. I cannot wait to have a slice of this. But first we're gonna let it cool for about 10, 20 minutes, and then we'll slice it up and have some. All right, I put a bunch of butter on this and I got my end piece, my favorite. So now we're gonna try it. So good. You just immediately taste the rosemary, the garlic, and it's just perfect. And then there's that really nice crust on the outside. The bottom too is extra crusty. And then the center is just so soft. It is perfect, and it is just pointless at this point to buy store-bought bread when you can make it at home. It's so easy. Real ingredients too made with it. The ones at the store, they're filled with so many weird ingredients and oils. So this is just an easy bread that you can make at home with your own ingredients, and it is so simple to make. So no excuses. And now Huddy is here for some. You cannot have this. This is the perfect bread to serve alongside your favorite comfort food meals for fall and winter. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you get to try it, please let me know. I love to hear that you guys are making these recipes and trying them out, and I hope that you are enjoying them. The comments that we've been getting on YouTube have just been so heartwarming. I've just been so touched by so many messages that we've been getting, and it's just been such a joy, and my favorite part about doing YouTube has just been connecting with all of you guys. So I really appreciate it and all the support. If you guys want to support our channel, you can subscribe, like this video, comment below, but no pressure on our side. We just are really grateful that you're here and that you're enjoying what we're doing. So I appreciate it. And as always, we'll catch you in the next recipe.